Okay, so we're now recording. So I'll just do a little brief introduction of you, Precious, if you don't mind.
Oh,
Um,
go right ahead.
Perfect. So for those of you who have joined us, if you don't know, Precious here is also a recent graduate from Memorial University's business faculty. He currently works as an analyst in commercial banking at Scotiabank. And before graduating, Precious was heavily involved on campus. I can personally vouch for that through volunteering and also being an executive director in Memorial University Student Union, or MUNSU, you might know it as. He was also the winner of the Leslie Toms Convocation Award for Leadership. So you can see why he's on this series here today. Precious also loves to be involved in the community and tries to take on the role of being a part-time activist. And you can see that in that he co-founded Black Lives Matter NL, and mostly because he's passionate about combating anti-Black racism. And also, on top of that, he's also passionate about creating a clearer pathway to permanent residence for immigrants, accessible education, and community building. So lots going on for you and things that you care about, which is fantastic to see. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure being here.
Good, excellent. So we're going to get straight into it with our first question, which is, how did your childhood frame who you came to be today?
I had a very unique childhood because I actually grew up in different parts of the world. I was actually born in Nigeria. Then growing up, I moved to Middle East Kuwait. And then from living in Kuwait, I moved to the UK, then to Canada, right? So in that sense, I found a good way to really meet people and get integrated in the community was through volunteering and being involved. When I was younger as a child, in Nigeria, I wouldn't say I was much involved because I guess it was more of my comfort zone. I already had friends. I mean, I grew up there, I had friends there. But moving to Kuwait, where it's a whole different atmosphere, things were way different. I found a good way was I joined sports teams. I was involved at church. I joined this like youth group as well. It was really like not youth group, more like children, like teenager group, and it was really cool because you got to meet so many people that you would not have met. And I found that experience led me to being more involved everywhere else I moved to. So when I moved to the UK as well, I got involved again in school, in sports teams, and we have this thing called school prefects. They're like prefects in the school. So I was involved in that as well, and being on the school council. And then moving to Canada, um, moving to Canada in high school, I found myself back in the same. For me, it was being involved in that was a good way to adapt to the environment and also a good way to meet new people, communicate with new people, and just it allowed me to develop different interesting things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And maybe sometimes people forget because when they think of getting involved or volunteering, it's, to learn or, professional development, but it's also a really good way to like meet new people and communicate
It
with new
really
people.
is. It really is. And for me, I find it's a great way to network with people as well.
Yeah, for sure. You can definitely reach out and, open some doors for the future, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So my ultimate dream it was always Precious Fam 007 was to be a spy. But I mean, I don't know if that's gonna come to pass anytime soon. We never know. But anyway, it was always to be a spy or to be like a well-renowned footballer. But I mean, I think I'm a bit too old, not old-ish, but now I'm a bit footballer started at a younger age. But anyway, I didn't really have a specific professional I wanted to go in when I was younger. But I think what I always wanted to do is I always wanted to influence change, no matter how little it was. I always wanted to be a part of something that changes the system as well. And for me, and I got that kind of. I thought that way from looking at Barack Obama in 2008 presidential election race and how he was part of something historical. He was able to just the slogan "Yes, we can" wasn't just a slogan; it was a powerful movement, and that it was one of the reasons that I wanted to be part of something that could influence change as well.
Right. So you more so followed like your interest or a general passion than having something super specific.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. No, that's an excellent way to go about it, I think, because then you you know your goals, and then you can kind of roll from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you say, and this is kind of a hard question, I would say, to answer, but what are some important points in your leadership journey, would you say?
That is hard. I think for me, one some important points I would say would be so for me as a when I was younger, I was actually kind of shy. Some people would not believe that. I was actually kind of shy just because I was always scared of like, what if people make fun of the way I say stuff or say things or make fun of my accent? So I wasn't really one to really speak out. I remember the turning point and where really I started being more vocal was at my first ever model event conference in high school. And it was the first time I was brave enough to put myself out there, and I was really vocal in that conference, and it was really fun. And that's when I started, and that really helped me with my public speaking skills. So from there, I gained more confidence. And I was over when I got to university as well. I was involved in Model UN. I gained more confidence in public speaking, and that led to me. So that led to me being able to really become a public speaker as well, and that gave me more confidence. And then from that, leading to being involved in club and society on campus, then leading to being a Monsu. Being a Monsu really showed me what it meant to be a leader. That was a key point for me because then and planning welcome weeks that really um, showed me what it means to be a leader and how to become a better leader as well.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people probably relate to you saying, I was shy at first. I definitely know I can. So, what would you say, just for anybody who's listening, how did you kind of overcome that first barrier of getting yourself to do that first public speaking thing? Like, how did you get yourself to do it?
For me, it was like I just used to overthink it. I used to think of, okay, do I know like how to? So I used to, I'll think, okay, I want to say something. What do I want to say, and do I know how to pronounce all the words properly or not properly, for like to make sure people understand me, right? So it's still just overthinking. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna. For me, it was just more pushing myself and saying, okay, I'm gonna do it, and think of what's nothing can really happen. Like there's no sometimes we think of the worst case scenario, which is like far which is sometimes is impossible because like but we make up scenarios in our head. So it's trying to overcome that kind of mentality and just pushing yourself to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That first step is usually the
That
scariest,
first
right?
step is key. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I forgot to mention at the beginning, but if anybody here has any questions for Precious, just message them to me and I'll pass them on. So you're more than welcome to add those questions you have in the chat there, just so you know. Okay, perfect. So moving right along, this is another good one. Interested to see your responses. What does leadership mean to you personally? What does it represent?
To me, leadership to me represents serving the people. As a leader, and most of the time in leadership position, the people have chosen you to be in that position to represent them and to serve them. So it's making sure that you are setting an example and you're setting an example for them as well. And it's making sure that you need to know that you're in a place of authority where you yourself is what people will look up to. And for me, it's about making sure that you communicate well with the people. You are holding yourself accountable because you're the leader. So you hold yourself and your team accountable for making sure that you meet the goals that have been set as well. And it's constantly make sure that you remind yourself that the people put you there. So make sure you're serving them and make sure that everything you do it in the best interest of the people that are you are communicating with.
Right. So there's like a lot of self-awareness involved there.
There's a lot, and you really have to be self-aware in a leadership position because a lot of times there's so many things that distract you as a leader as well, and sometimes some people try to micromanage different parts of it, but you also have to have trust in others to really be a good leader. And like people have different leadership styles. And for me, I prefer the way I like to I think from my perspective is that I prefer let's work together to achieve the best results and let's see what we can do. Like if there's a problem, let's all sit down, see what the way we can address this issue and then think of a solution that we can work together on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of building on that, I have a little side question is, as a leader, I mean, you're put in positions of conflict at times. Like you said, trying to work out all together, maybe a solution. But how do you deal with conflict in your position? And maybe what advice do you have for others for resolving conflict in leadership positions?
So dealing with conflict is one thing that is really hard to do. It can be nerve-wracking, and I would even confess that sometimes I'm not the best in dealing with conflict. And it's something that I try to face on head more now, as well, because the thing is that if it's conflict between your group or your leadership team, it affects the whole organization at the end of the day. And so the best way to do it is to hear both, like if it's conflict between individuals or between the group, hear what is the cause of the conflict as well. Because you would have to sit down as a team and hear what the cause of conflict, and then from there you have to address the issue, because if not, there's going to be this elephant in the room that is going to make everything really awkward for everyone. And the last thing you want, working in such an environment that could be toxic, and you don't want that, because at the end of the day, we want to provide an environment that everyone feels comfortable in to come to, right? So it's coming in, addressing that issue, and it's going to be a hard topic. It's not anything easy. You're going to have to deliberate on it as well, but it's coming in, addressing that issue, and see what is the best way. And sometimes you might need an external party to come in as well, especially if it's conflict between the group that you feel can be settled. Sometimes it's easier to call in an external party to look at both sides, look at what's going on, and come to an agreement.
Yeah, exactly. And oh, Antonia is joining us now as well. But yeah, no, I like the points you made. And sometimes it's hard, you're right, to deal with conflict, arguably one of the more complicated things about being a leader.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
it is. And I think for me, I think it's a skill that I'm continuously trying to improve on as well. So, I mean, if anyone has a good tip on dealing conflict, just let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a learning process, right?
It really is. Leadership itself is a learning process. I think in terms of leadership, there's no, oh, I'm now the greatest leader in the world, or there is no like, oh, I'm not the best. I have attained all the leadership skills. I think something that ever progresses and improves as time, as you gain more experience, you pick up more skills, and you know how to address more issues as well.
Definitely, definitely. Antonia, are you able to hear us there?
Yeah.
Hello, Antonia.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. So Antonia here is a Memorial Ambassador. I'm sure you're familiar with that program, Precious.
Yes.
Yes. So she's going to take over here with the questions, if that's okay with you.
Yes, definitely.
But I, of course, am going to still be here because I love this conversation. So Antonia, just so you know, our last question was, what does leadership mean to you? So our next one is about leadership role models. You got that? Okay, excellent.
I gotta unmute myself. Hi, Precious. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, Antonia. How's everything going?
Good. So I'm sure you and Haley have had some interesting conversations so far. I definitely am sad that I missed some of it, but I guess we can have lots of fun talk now. Want to tell me who your leadership role models are?
So for me, my leadership role model is, first of all, it's Barack Obama. I mentioned it earlier in my interview, just from the campaign. Yes, you can was such motivation for me, because it was a thing that said, like, he was able to do something where a lot of people thought was impossible. As well. And for me, it was a drive to say that no matter how I look at it, that there are definitely going to be obstacles in the way, but no matter how I look at it, we can do it. Like, yes, I can. Like, I can do this. And it was sort of, so ever I've held on to that catchphrase as well. And another one would be Martin Luther King. So funny enough, in my first ever Monterey election, I took the phrase "I have a dream" as my election quote, which I really take pride in, because Martin Luther was a change maker. He was in a time that would describe as a time where segregation, where racism was prevalent. He was able to be a change maker and to influence change as well. So for me, he's one of my role models. One, and then last I would say is both my parents, my dad and my mom. For them, to their story, and for them, they have been able to influence me in the way they have, just their story in general of how they've raised me up, and just their leadership style as well. And from what I've witnessed and seen, the way they relate to people, they've been a source of influence to me as well.
Awesome. Those are really inspirational role models, and definitely Obama is one that's been in the news recently, just like everybody else. So I know you talked about 2 role models kind of in the world. Do you have any role models at MUN leadership that you think you could, like, is there anyone that you look up to? I know you've been at MUN for a while, in and out very different areas.
I think in terms of leadership, I think I would point out to working with my exec team when I was a Monsu. I just missed my words there. When I was an executive on Monsu, they were really great help in terms of my leadership journey, because working in a team of people is really hard, especially when you have different character as well. And so they were really, like, for me, they actually influenced my leadership style now in terms of communicating with people as well, and keeping people in the loop, and making sure that how to address conflict and all that. It was really a learning experience, and also in the student experience office, from Jennifer to Shannon as well, and everyone there has really been like really great influence of my leadership style, and empowering me to be more involved in a way, and giving me things like being a community engagement liaison and all that. So it was a really great time.
That's awesome. Is there a piece of advice that someone's given you in your leadership journeys that stands out?
So I received many advice. I mean, good, some bad. All the good ones I received have been really helpful, because I treasure people giving me advice out of the time of the day. Because at the end of the day, advice are meant to help you improve, and the good advice are meant to help you improve and be a better person, improve your leadership style. I think one of the ones, I can't remember who specifically told me this. I think it was my dad. I think my dad told me, it's like, in everything you do, make sure you give 100%. And for me, that's really important, and it was hard because, like, I was heavily involved in a lot of things as well. So it's hard. And so it's making sure that, although it can be hard, because if you're involved in a lot of things and you're trying to give 100% to all those things, you got to really, like, manage your time well as well, and make sure that you. So that was a skill that I had to learn, but the advice itself really resonated with me, because no matter what you're involved in, you want to make sure you're doing a good job at it, right? So that quote itself that advice was one of the ones that really stands out to me. But as I said, I've received many advice over the years. I really appreciate as well.
Those are all really good tips. I know time management is a huge thing for first-year students this year with all their courses online. Do you have any time management tips that you use?
Don't watch Netflix while you're doing your course. But when you're in class, but I think in terms of time is actually going with using a planner, writing a schedule, and actually planning your day. Sometimes, and I have a tendency to fall into this where I just go free flow, and I've worked with Antonia before, and she knows that working with those sometimes Antonia where I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be there. And then Antonia sends me like a message so we have this at this time. You remembered, right? I was like, oh yes, definitely right. No, I did not. So it's actually making sure you write down stuff. There's a lot of good, like Google Calendar is actually amazing when you use it. I use that. I've actually lost the habit of using that. But when I was in Monsu, I found myself using that a bit more because then I could track my meetings and see where I needed to be as well. So I really advise for first years to put that as well. Because the thing is that, especially online, like I feel for everyone. Like I was talking to my girlfriend and I was like, I don't think that I'll be able to survive online school. Being true to myself, because of the fact that it's so hard when you have so many things due that it's so hard to remember if you don't put it down. And if you if you are like me living on a free flow, you're gonna definitely miss a lot of due dates, right? So for everyone doing online school, I give you like a big thumbs up, kudos to you, because like you're amazing doing it as well. But just in terms of time management, use a calendar, use the planners as well. I remember before in the past, there used to be planners. I'm not sure if those were possible this year too, since no one was on campus. But use the planners on the planner apps as well, and you can actually download this app that lets you access like your detail on your phone, and I found that to be the most useful thing.
Those are all really good tips. Thank you. Hard decisions have to be made. How do you make them? Who do you turn to for advice?
Had hard decisions. Also goes along
Lots
this
of
line.
them.
Conflict. Oh yeah, there's lots of them, definitely. I mean, they need to be made. Um, Hard decisions, number one, I think the best thing is not rush into them. Take your time and think about them as well. Depending on the timeline and the sense of urgency in place as well. Sometimes things need to be decided up and down there, and that's where quick thinking comes in, where you have to do a quick pro and cons. For me, when I think of hard decisions, I personally don't like to be rushed sometimes, but sometimes I make like, I make like I make the mistake of making really rushed decisions, and I think back to myself like, you rushed that, didn't you? I was like, yes. But for me, it's breaking down, doing the pros and cons. Every situation always has a pro and con to it. So it's actually doing like an analysis of what is the pros of doing this, what is the con of this decision as well, what are the alternatives as well. And maybe it's just my business mindful, because like in business they make you do this situation thing where you do like different alternatives to it, alternative one, alternative two. So maybe it's just because of me being in like finishing from business school. I have that mentality, but doing the pros and cons, doing the alternatives you have in place really does help you guide your decision. But sometimes you don't have the time to sit down and make all the decisions, so you have to do a lot of quick thinking. And and even if you make a decision at that point where you feel that you're not satisfied with, don't regret it at the end of the day. Don't let that regret eat you up. Don't let it be the one. Don't consistently wallow in it as well. Because and other like no matter what, there's other opportunities going to come up. There's going to be other decisions to be made, and so just learn. So you learn from that, and then you make sure that when the time comes, that you're making sure that you do some quick thinking. If it's something that requires urgency, make sure that you're doing some quick thinking and you're making a decision that you feel as the best without any regrets as well. And in terms of when it comes to advice, having people that you can read is having people that you can turn to is actually so key. Those are the people that you will play a lot of role in helping you to decide to as well. For me, I have people that influence my decisions. First I go to my parents. I ask my sister as well. I'm also a Christian, so I pray about it, and I also ask my girlfriend too. And I ask my really close friends what they think about certain topic, what matter it is, right? Because for me, I like to get different perspective, because everyone thinks differently. So people, even things you haven't thought of, someone might bring it up and be like, oh, what if this alternative? Or what if this, right? So surrounding you, asking those group of people will give you a perspective you haven't even thought about before.
That is really true. Everyone does look at things differently, and you might not see it that way, but it could be super useful to you.
It really is. I was like, one of the hardest decisions I made it was around this time a year ago, actually. Antonia knows about it. It was like, so it was where it was actually months by election, and there was an executive position open, and I was going to run for that because I really enjoyed my time there. But in that same process, I had so I did my internship at Scotiabank during the summer last year. So they had offered me position around that same time. So I was trying to determine of whether go back to Monsu or go onto this new career path. Where for me, it was kind of scary because like, oh my God, this is like new career path. This is scary. And it was like Monsu, and I loved both of them too as well. And I really, really wish I could do both at the same time. And I used to be like, Antonia, what do I do? Like, I asked my mom, I asked my girlfriend, now I was like, what do you guys think I should do? And I had fun, but I eventually made the decision, which I don't regret at all.
That's good, and I know you took time with that decision and weighed the pros and cons, so that's always good. And in the end, you've continued your leadership journey with MUN, even though you've graduated, so
Yeah.
it's always good. How can your story inspire students to launch forth in their own leadership journeys?
For me, I think in terms of inspire, what I want people to inspire is to get involved. I believe it's very important to get involved on campus. I want to inspire that getting involved it helps your leadership skills. It launches you forth into that leadership because that's how I believe I really got involved. I really launched into this leadership position. If someone told me like a year ago, 2 years ago, that I'll be classified as a student leader, or even to today, someone told me I'm a community leader. I'm just like, oh, community. But I think I really, and for me, it becomes get involved in your passion, get involved on camp. Like now it's harder to get involved on campus because of COVID, but there are still ways to get involved, to volunteer. There's still I totally forgot that volunteer place. I know they've gone online now.
SVB.
Yeah, the SVB. So, and get involved with things you're passionate about as well. For me, in my first year, I got involved with Model UN because like I was passionate about Model UN. Then I got involved in other clubs of society. Then before I know it, I was at Monsu, and everything from there was a blur because it just happened so fast. But take your passion, get involved. You meet new people as well, and honestly, for me, I think the university experience just goes way beyond going to class and. Um, I would say eating lunch at the UC now, but that's not possible anymore. Sad tears. But for me, the university experience goes way beyond just going to class, eating lunch at the UC. It goes more past that when you're involved in club society. You make memories that you really cherish, and you meet people that really influence your journey along the way. And I can say one of my closest friends I've met is through Monsu, is through being on Model UN as well. So
No, it is a great place to make friends, and I'm sure there'll be life friends and life experiences. So we have a couple questions from the audience for you, Precious. You've done so much. What are you most proud of throughout the last couple of years? I know that's hard.
that's
You can do it.
very hard. I honestly have to truth. I can't pick one thing I am specifically proud of because I'm proud of a lot of things. I think I surprise myself sometimes when I think of all the stuff I've been able to achieve, and I think like is this you, Precious? Like, damn. But it's for me in recent times. I think one of the most thing I've been able to achieve was the rally we had for Black Lives Matter. That for me was dear to my heart just because of the different experiences I've had. But I can't. That for me was the most recent amazing experience I've had, and just coming together with my team. It's been amazing with the ideas everyone's throwing around and the excitement the team has. But when I think back to Monsu, think working with the folks, working council, welcome weeks, how no matter how stressful it was at the end of the day was amazing. And even though some nights I'm like exhausted and I literally lived on Red Bull, but that itself was an amazing experience as well. And I don't, this the university itself was classes sometimes were hard. Oh, classes were definitely hard. I switched programs at one point because like I didn't want to do this anymore. But I think university itself, the experience, the people you met, it was all really good.
Oh, that's good. So you've come a long way since your first year. What advice would you give your first year self? gonna with all the hard ones.
I think my first year self, I'll be switch programs first of all. Would be the person I would give my first year if like I had a letter to my first year. But I think also I'd be like it would be don't don't belittle yourself and do what you find passionate is what I would say. Find what you have passion in, and from there, the sky's your limit. You will succeed, and don't compare yourself to others. Just keep doing what you have passion in, no matter what, and you will succeed. Except if it's illegal.
Valid point. That's good advice, though. Okay. Do you have any books or movies to recommend for people in their study breaks?
Books. So I used to be a big reader, but recently I haven't been a big reader. So funny enough, my favorite book though is called Harkin Harvard, where there's like three genius guys try to get this guy into Harvard. They try to prove that the system's flawed, like the Harvard admission system's flawed. It's a really good book, but I mean also illegal, but a good book. So definitely check it out as well. But if you have any recommendation for me, I am definitely open because I've been really thinking of picking up reading again, but never got around to it. Netflix kind of put me on a lockdown.
I guess we're really lucky now that we're not going into a second lockdown when
I know.
people
I'm
are
very
starting.
happy.
I know. It's definitely, I think we should count ourselves very lucky.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, what attributes do you think a great leader has?
Communication. For me, it's always been a big thing for me is it's important as a leader to communicate with your people. It's important as a lead because if you don't have communication skill, really really how is what your relationship with people is based on. And if you can't communicate well with them, um, there's no just for me it just destroys the cohesion. You can't work well as a team if you don't communicate well with each other. So for me, I like to communicate. I like to be vocal. I like to hear feedback from you. I like us to have a conversation, and that for me that and sometimes like and it like sometimes I personally say I can talk too much, but if you feel as if I'm talking too much, just tell me to shut up. Like I don't take no offense to it. Just literally tell me to shut up if you're gonna say something. So for me, it's communication, and that for me is really important. And I mean, I guess another attribute would be with more of being and it's hard to balance because you want to communicate, but you also have to be a listener. You have to listen to people. You have to be able to take advice. You have to be able to not take it personally as well. Another thing I had before, which I have moved from, was not to like you have to be able to take criticism and not take it personally, I think. And for me, I think in the past I might have taken criticism personally before, but as an advice, don't take criticism. It actually helps you grow more when you sit down and consider criticism. It's actually a way of bettering yourself and bettering your leadership, and that is constructive criticism, not just criticism to destroy you, but constructive criticism.
No, yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind and comes with time.
Of course.
How do you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
Hard question. It's hard now. I actually miss being on campus. Like I miss being meeting new students, attending meeting new students, talking to new students. It's been definitely hard, but for me, one way I find like one way is being involved in community. There's so many great leadership examples in our community here. If you look at ARC now, look at just the folks in that group leading the Orange Racing Coalition. They are great leadership. There's some great mentors there as well. And just at my workplace, I find I can see great leadership in the director of commercial banking. He's a great leader and my manager as well. So for me, I look at their leadership style. I look at what they're doing great. And I try to pick up those sort of skills, or I talk with them about being a leader as well, and how they would handle certain situation. But from having those surrounded with those folks and having um, my parents who count as a leader in our church here, they have been great examples of leadership skills as well. So having those folks around me really helps me to develop more and see what I can improve as well. Because even as a leader, you probably have argument with those folks, and because your opinion will be different from them, but it gives you it goes back to giving a diverse opinion and being able to learn from that.
No, those are all really important. Do you have any tips for people who aren't currently having the opportunity to be in a workplace or in personal spaces right now on improving their leadership and getting more involved in the community? Because it can be hard if they're coming to MUN for the first time. Meeting people online can be difficult, but knowing where to kind of start.
I think it's hard because, like I said, the COVID kind of really changed everything. Because I can't even I try to think of if I was a first year student going to MUN right now in a COVID time, where I honestly think it would be hard because I'll be home in probably my pajamas going to class. So hitting that kind of motivation to be involved is different. But I think it goes back to what your passion is, and finding something that you're passionate about, that you have passion for, I think is really key. But it also goes back to, looking why I'm passionate about it, so why should I get involved? And it also goes back to reaching out for resources like the SVB, where you can find many resources of places you can volunteer and take a leadership. And not even just, and it'll be hard now because obviously I probably call myself pre-COVID now. So all the kids now are post-COVID, so we're in the pre-COVID generation, not generation, but the pre-COVID era, right? When we'll be on campus. And a lot of times things that attract you to being on campus was oh, what's going on here? And what's going on here, right? So I really think we're in a different era now where it'll be harder to get that sort of motivation, but the motivation still exists. And anyone out there, I think, is just try and reach out to the resources available and figure. I know Monzo had a virtual club of society. Watch that video, see the different introduction of different clubs of society, because that would really help you to see things that you might not even be passionate about and be like, oh, I'd really love to be involved in that, right? Oh, I'd really love to be involved in that too, right? So I think for me, that's the way, is really trying to seek out the opportunity. And there are people there to help you. You don't have to seek out that opportunity by yourself. And in terms of community, just if you want to if you want to be involved in Black Lives Matter, literally message me on Facebook as well. We're very open. So, and there are different community organizations that are always looking for volunteers, they're all looking for people to help. So it's taking that step. And once you take that step, there'll be people there to guide you. And I think it goes back to what me and Haley were saying, was taking that first step, right? Taking that first step is really crucial. But once you take that first step, and sometimes you're like, oh, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. But I would say part of the university experience goes way beyond going to class, for real. I remember going to class. I mean, I might have skipped a few here and there, but I do remember going to class. But honestly, my university experience is based on the time I'm in the UC handing that flyer. Hey, this is coming. Or me and Antonio setting up Music Mondays, right? So
yeah, we did have some fun in the UC.
We did. I really missed the UC.
I miss the UC as well. I did love the UC. So I guess it is a really good point that you bring up, that people get busy and time goes on. What's something that motivates you to stay involved when, it's 2020, everyone's tired, the workload, when you get home in the evenings, what motivates you to keep staying engaged in the community?
It's yeah. And for me, I think the question, and to put this out there, I think it's also important that, and if you should take breaks as well, because it's really good for your mental health. So if you feel as if you have too much capacity or too much on the go, take a break from it, because that's when you'll be able to feel more refreshed. And for me, it relates to that question. I think what pushes me is that sometimes I take a break. Sometimes I'm like, okay, today I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna look at any emails. I'm just gonna relax, and because then when I come back the next day, I feel more refreshed as well. So, and it's also knowing your priorities. Like if you have a midterm exam coming up, and sometimes it's hard to distinguish it between your priorities and your commitments, but it's also establishing what your priorities are as well. And when you understand what your priorities and your commitments and distinguishing what needs to be addressed now, there's some things that you can actually push that you don't have to do in that instance. And those are the things you want to be analyzing, make sure that you can push those so you can focus on what could be that, oh, I need some rest, I need some sleep. Then take that rest, take that sleep. But for me, if I feel as if I have work, I have too many, if I feel overwhelmed, what I personally do, I just kind of like I'll let people know I'm working with, and it goes back. You have to communicate that you're overwhelmed because everyone understands. Everyone 2020, literally, everyone understands, right? So once you communicate that, oh, this is what I feel like. You don't even have to just say, oh, guys, I'm not able to work in this, and I just feel a bit overwhelmed. Take that break so you can come. And when you take that break, you feel as if when you now come back to the same whatever you're doing, if you're planning an event or if you're doing some schoolwork, whatever you're doing, you feel more refreshed and you actually, instead of having been under stress or feeling tired, when you look at the situation like, oh, maybe we should do, you get new ideas, you get more creative too.
No, that's definitely super true. What do you think the hardest part of being a leader is?
Conflict. I'm not gonna lie to you. For me personally, it's conflict. And for me, that's the hardest part there is to it. And but it's something that still needs to be conflict. Being a leader, dealing with conflict is very hard, and it can be emotionally bearing as well. And so for me is one of the hardest part. I am still learning to how to deal in leadership. But and also another one is make sure that because seeing as leaders, many people are talking to you, you hear different voices, many people. So it's make sure that you yourself still know that, like it goes back to being self-aware and make sure that in whatever action you take, you're doing it for either you're doing it in the best interest of the organization you're serving, or you're doing it in the best interest of the people you're serving. Because a leader, you're serving people, right? So you're doing that in the best interest of them.
That's super true. Do you have any ongoing projects right now that you're working on you'd like to tell us about?
I mean, so Black Lives Matter itself is an ongoing project we have now. So we're really hoping, and it's hard because a lot of us in the group are full time or working and going to school, and so balancing all that is so sometimes we take breaks. Like if you message us, sometimes it might take a while for us to get back to because we kind of take breaks that we all know we need. So we can feel fresh. We recently did a school drive of like last month, a school supply drive where we're able to provide school supplies to different families, which is amazing. So we're really, really excited about that. And we have future programs planned around. I know we're thinking of planning something about women's mental health as well. So that is going to be really great as well. And other projects I have, nothing really peculiar, but I mean, if you ever, if you look at my Facebook, you know what I'm up to. If you look at my Instagram, you know what I'm up to most of the time. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Do you want to give out your Instagram handle so people can look you up?
Oh, yeah, you can look me up, Precious M Fam. So look me up, follow me, message me if you have any questions about volunteering. I can direct you to some snazzy people. Antonia herself is involved. And so,
We have fun.
What?
We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly. So, and honestly, you meet awesome people. Once you're involved, you create like the sense of like for me, it creates like the sense of like family vibes, and it's really cool, as well. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Precious. Do you have any last words before we go on with our day?
Have a good day, and make sure do what you're passionate about, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. In university experiences past going to class, I think, as well is key. University experiences is great. Actually, let me give a quick example. I'm only emphasizing because I strongly believe it's past, like, so the whole way. So I worked at Monsu for a whole year as an executive director, and then I got an internship with Scotiabank. Monsu, Scotiabank have nothing to do with itself, but going into that interview, I was able to talk about working at Monsu and my Monsu experience, which was really fascinating to the manager interviewing me at that time. So just because you're volunteering, those experiences are not going to waste. You can actually find that useful in other areas of life. So working at Monster was actually useful in getting my position now. And if someone told me that before, like, oh, your experience at Monster would actually help you in your interview to get your full-time job, and I'm like, oh, no way, they don't relate with each other. But eventually they do, because you're talking to people, you're conversating with people, right? So
No, that is really awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with myself and Haley today, Precious.
thank
And
you.
it was great to see you virtually. And I'm sure everyone really took a lot away from the chat today. And I'll hand it back to Haley.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, Antonia, for joining us in there and finishing off this interview for me. And yes, Precious, thank you so much for chatting.
You're
I
so much.
love having you here because you have that relatable experience and you can talk as a recent graduate. And speaking of that,
Yeah.
while you were just talking, I kind of have a question for you, if you don't mind. One last one.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. I know personally, at least, graduating from university and transitioning into the real world has been interesting. So how have you handled it and continued on your leadership journey when you left the university? Because it's a challenge.
It is a challenge, and that was one thing as well. I thought at the end of, I was like, oh, at the end of my degree, like being in, being involved, it'll be like a step back. I don't have that much thing to be involved with. I'm like, oh, I have so much time on my hands now. I could do so much things. Well, ha ha ha. But what I was able to find a community. And so from as I was leaving school, I actually got involved with the Nigerian Canadian Association of it now. So I got really involved in that way too. So I found a community there. And then I was able to find a community with the Black Lives Matter NL community as well. So I was able to find a space where I could make changes, no matter how small this was. I could still make changes. I could still hopefully help amplify people's voices, amplify people's struggle as well, and see in ways not just amplify the struggle, how we can work on making changes on the struggle as well. So it was finding that community as well. But still, the transition was still hard though, because it was really weird where it was like, oh wow, so I'm done university, and not even having an actual graduation still did not like let it sink in that much, and having a virtual graduation. So it was a really weird transition. I find, especially COVID era, right? So, but it was all about finding the communities, meeting people, finding folks that you can talk to, and actually want to help you get involved in the community as well, and advise you. So that really helped me a lot.
Absolutely. So kind of similar, reaching out to those communities that you are passionate about and that you have passion.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah, those are some great tips. So we have some things for new students, and we have some things for transitioning out of university students. So we hit all those all those students in one session. So I appreciate you giving all those tips. I'm sure it's going to be helpful for students, especially to hear from you, because they can really relate to you.
Hopefully, and I mean, those students, good luck to them, because they got this. That's what they need to know. They got this.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today, Precious.
Thank you so much. It was my honor.
Yeah, so it's been fantastic chatting with you and hearing your story. And I will let you know when this recording is out and about.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a fantastic day and weekend, and we'll see you next time.